we talked about the strengths. I'm reading from an IFSP here, which is one of an 18-month-old child with Down syndrome, and the parents' concerns were verbal communication, gross motor concerns, and upper body strength. We talked about the family's resources, whether they have private insurance, whether they have access to the community, whether they have transportation, and what other supports they have in the community. If they're working from home or if they're working outside the house, how do we deliver those services? How do we fit in our philosophy, which is a parent training model, to a situation, say, where a child is in daycare? How do we incorporate all of this? We elicit from the parent what it is they hope to achieve over a period of time, generally over 6 months, sometimes over a year. In this instance, this parent wanted to see her daughter feed herself with a spoon. And so we develop a plan of how we get there. And that may include occupational therapy. It may include an early intervention. It's going to the home. And then we have measurable criteria which we can look at after several months to see if actually we're making progress toward that goal. The second goal would be, in this instance, Dad, who obviously participated in the development of this plan, said he'd like to see his daughter say mama consistently and have improve on her language. Again, this is an 18-month-old who has Down syndrome. Were we putting in speech therapy at this time? Probably not, but we were certainly evaluating. So we also take into consider in that instance if the child's oral motor strength is sufficient to form words. So we combine our teams and ideally cross disciplines to help meet that goal. The other goal was they wanted to see her walking with stability, and how do we do that? Do we put in physical therapy regularly? Probably not in this instance, because the child was actually heading in the right direction, so we were using physical therapist monitor coming into the home once a month, but working with the team. And finally, parents wanted to have a little break, so occasionally we do provide respite for these families, so that they can have a break from the sort of unusual stresses that sometimes can be associated with caring for a child with a disability. Our IFSP, we use, typically we use some jargon. Our services are driven by the needs of the child and not by the wants of the parents. And many of you alluded earlier on to the parent who wants twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and more of whatever it is. We really try to empower our parents to be the therapist for the child and to incorporate what they learn during therapy into their daily routines. And that's the one variable we know is associated with successful outcomes. The Individualized Family Service Plan, or the IFSP, is reviewed every 6 months, and we reassess the child, and we look at whether we've made progress towards goals, and whether we need to shift that program a little bit, add, subtract, modify, maybe create a different environment to generalize skills. I don't know whether you want me to get into delivery of services past 3, and I probably won't, but just suffice it to say that around 2.5, around the child's 30 months, we are looking toward what's going to happen with this child when he or she graduates from the Early Start program. So we have what we call a transition IFSP. We discuss that with the parent, and we invite the local education agency if the parent so desires. And so the path at age 3 may go just to school services or may also incorporate services through the regional centre if the child meets our criteria for eligibility under the Lanterman Act. And for those of you who don't know, that would be a diagnosis of mental retardation, autism, cerebral palsy or seizure disorder with substantially handicapping conditions. And that is a very short presentation on Early Start, but I certainly invite questions. I invite participation from Dr. Graf, from Pablo down here, who is one of our service providers in this area, who works predominantly with the Spanish-speaking families in our area, and who provides tremendous support. We also we're beginning to partner more with Neighbourhood for Learning, the NFL programs, public health. An ideal IFSP would consist of CCS, or the medical therapy unit people, public health, child protective services if necessary, our providers, our service coordinators, and I would invite any of you to attend an IFSP. If you would like any of my staff to present at your clinics, they would be delighted to do so. Our mandate in the law is to do community outreach and do this for you. So I can give you, any of you who have pencils, 485-3177 is our number, or 522-8030 in the See Me office. And that's it.